Live tonight from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the round of 8 as the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Boosted Playoffs, continue here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. As always, we're happy that you're spending your Monday evening with us. Alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined, as always, by Justin Prince on the call. Our producer is Hugo Luis. He's downstairs and bringing us to you this evening. And, you know, Justin, it was just a week ago at Kansas where we started this round of 8, and we got our first championship 4 driver locked in as Michael Laraya took home the checkered flag. So he is worry-free tonight at Texas, and next week is Martinsville. He knows he'll be in those championship 4, but for a lot of our championship favorites, a rough end to that race at Kansas has them in an uncertain position.
Yes, indeed. Andrew Freenosh had been the dominant driver at Kansas. Then disaster struck with multiple strategies having to come into play. Late race cautions once again, similar to what happened at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And of course, attrition came into play. A few big incidents completely shook up the whole playoff picture entering tonight's race at Texas, meaning several drivers now are in the position potentially, Evan, of having to win here tonight to make sure they are safe, especially with the madness that can happen at Martinsville.
Yeah, we all know how wild that spring race was, and here's a look at your Boosted.Club playoff standings into this evening. So, with that race win, Michael Laraya, he advances. Daniel Everhart, not that far off, but from there on back, it is a razor-thin margin. Kyle Trudell, 2 points to the good. Andrew Faridaj, the best car all year, 6-time race winner, only 1 point to the good. Atop Adam Benefiel, -1. Dylan Jones, -3. Grant Davis is 6 back, and David Washington 13 points back. Not necessarily in a must-win position quite yet, but if you don't get the job done here tonight, Justin, to your point, I would really rather not put things up to task and to chance as we go to Martinsville next week, because that was a wild race earlier this year. But so was our first trip here to the Texas Motor Speedway. The likes of Andrew Faridaj, Daniel Eberhardt, and even Grant Davis and Joseph Tice drivers who led laps in that race. So obviously Faridaj and Eberhardt, who finished 1-2 here in the race here in March, feel like this is a really good opportunity for them to as well lock in to that championship 4 and not have to worry about the paperclip next Monday.
I think so as well. This is such a good track for drivers who were up towards the front last week. The problem is going to be, though, it's not quite the same, obviously. Different shape, first of all. But second, more bottom-dominant track. Tire wear expected to hit about 2 to 3 seconds with these drivers in their fixed setups tonight. If you lose the bottom of the racetrack or end up having to lift off the throttle into turn 2, into the exit of turn 2, you're going to be going backwards tonight, likely, because it's near full throttle for much of the run in turns 3 and 4. This is going to be the type of race where it's going to be focused again on who can save the tires the best, but also who can make sure they can carry the momentum the best around 1 and 2, especially to make sure they stay up towards the front.
And right now, cars are in a single-car qualifying session, getting set for this race, a field that looks to have about 29 drivers take to the green flag in it, meaning that there are going to be more non-playoff cars than playoff drivers competing in this one. And as you mentioned, similar to Vegas and what we saw last week at Kansas, as those non-playoff cars have been a factor. There's Adam Benefiel on his qualifying lap right now, the driver of the number 83 machine. It comes into this race as one of the drivers who it's interesting when you talk about his case. There's the on-board look with him, left-hand side of your screen, Justin. Adam's somebody who always expects to compete at a top level in this series and has done that for so long, but finds himself on the cusp, maybe, of another opportunity to fight for a Full Throttle Cup. Wants to obviously get over that hump, one of the longtime veterans who has never been able to get the job done.
Yeah, he's been somewhat quick, mind you, at these types of racetracks all season. It's just he's been either the second best or the third best or even the fourth best car in a lot of the races. He had a strong chance, mind you, Evan, for coming away with that race win at Kansas. He just didn't have the luck go with him and wasn't as effective on the long run, I think, compared to Andrew Freenosh. But tonight, this is the whole different type of race. We've seen crazy moments here at the circuit. One of the first times we came here back in the wintertime, there was 4 wide into the corner that caused absolute pandemonium, putting one car on the apron and all of that. I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 wide off the jump into turns 1 and 2 because of how important it is to get to the bottom and how aggressive some drivers in some of the races throughout the week across the iRacing service have been in that part of the racetrack. Because again, you lose that white line for the corner exit especially, or have to lift off the gas right about here-ish in that flatter banking of 1 and 2, you're likely going backwards tonight.
And there was a couple looks at some drivers towards the end of their qualifying laps. Everybody has gotten a time locked in. The qualifying clock strikes at 0. Let's take a look at your Boosted.Club starting grid, and it is a front few rows full of playoff hopefuls. No surprise, it's your spring winner, Andrew Freenosh, on the pole position. His lap of 28.682 going to be best enough, and he will top Dylan Jones, who joins him on the front row in second. Daniel Eberhardt will roll from third position. Grant Davis will start from fourth. Reminder, all those drivers highlighted in red, playoff cars. So non-championship contenders, Joseph Tice and Scott McClendon 5-6. David Washington slides in P7 ahead of Sam Nieto. And then the driver who's already locked in to that finale, Michael O'Raya, 9th ahead of Adam Benefiel, P10.
Kyle Cameron near played spoiler last week, starts an 11th spot alongside Jared Mogart, who was also a contender for a top 5 last week. Kyle Trudell will get the start from 13th position alongside Eric Stanford. Jeremy Miller, who's been running a part-time schedule this season, starts 15th, with Matthew Mara rounding out the top 16. Brian Chambliss starts 17th. The first drivers in the 29-second bracket is John Fowler along with John Rodden. Egno Phillips, surprisingly, after having some good qualifying runs for the past 3 weeks, Evan, starts from 20th.
He's been one of those drivers that has impressed, but not an effort that he wanted. And you see the rest of the drivers. 23rd position to Moreno the last time in on time. So provisionals and no queue to Malik Ray. Watch for him to go through the field. Ross Cato, Steve Soa, Sean Kalis, Michael Mosier. And at the very back of the grid, Trevor Valderrama, who got his first top 10 of the season last week at Kansas. Could round out the field in that number 29 spot. And we talk more about this Texas Motor Speedway. Justin, you hit on the big point that, of course, this new scan repaved version is definitely not the Texas of old. Turns 1 and 2 banked at 20 degrees as the field rolls. The drivers will be feathering the throttle, lifting all the way out of it basically from the first lap on in this race. 3 and 4 though, 24, a very different story. That going to be the flat-foot side of the racetrack.
Absolutely, especially with this package in. To be quite frank, I think I'm still trying to find the map on how you enter turn 1 specifically, because there's a fine line of doing it. You go too flat on the corner entry, you shred your tires, especially your rear tires. You end up trying to arc it down too late, you're likely not getting to the bottom, and someone's going to drive underneath you on the short run especially. It's just a fine line to get that, and then as long as you nail that section off of turn 2, especially where drivers have gone in loose at times throughout the week and or slamming up tight depending on the weather conditions, you're able to go full throttle down to the bottom line where, again, it's not as bad as some other tracks. You can only lose a spot or two at the most, but again, you want to stay on that white line, especially on the short run.
Going to be high-speed action tonight from No Limits, Texas, for the third to last race of 2020. We're happy that you're with us at Race Spot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Pace car down, field in the
He's back. bit aggressive. Take Malik Ray, for example, already +6 off the jump, and he's been taking the bottom line better than anyone else on corner exit, especially to find the right arc to where he isn't going too late on the gas or too late on the brake either, and then in turn is able to carry more momentum in 3 and 4 to catch up to everyone else with the draft.
Yeah, no surprise, he's fast. He uses these night races as a little bit of prep for the upcoming eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series races. Of course, it's always a little bit different in this series, running with fixed setups versus what he'll actually be using on the car tomorrow night on the iRacing Esports Network and eNASCAR.com. However, until that point, I think that it's important to know that it's any bit of track time, Justin, that's important. You know, you can do lap times on your own. You can kind of get out there and do whatever in a group of cars, but you can't really simulate a large field, and I think that that's why he enjoys starting at the back, just so he can work on his traffic etiquette, how he gets through the field, how to set up passes, and started 24th on the grid. He's already up into the number 18 spot, so no surprise, he's on the move, and I think it'll take a lot to keep him out of the top 10 or the top 5. Watch this 51 go through the field all night as we work lap number 7. We'll get that picture back to you in just a moment, but in the meantime, not missing anything. It's Andrew Friedage, front of the field. Joseph Tice is closing a little bit to P2. Your top 3 within about a half a second.
Yeah, very tight so far, and that's been one of the consistent points around this racetrack throughout the week is on the short run, up to about lap 20 to 25-ish. You'll have these packs like this, especially when you have a decent amount of grip like there is today. 94 degrees is the track temp for reference sake Fahrenheit. Air temp 73 with overcast skies. But the main thing also to keep in mind is that once you get to around that 25 to lap 30 mark, that's where whoever saved their tires the best is going to cut through the field and make up time. And or if you're at the front of the field, there's a chance you break away. In other words, Andrew Friedage is in a great spot where he doesn't have to worry about fighting air cars behind him. He's got clean air. He just needs to focus on making sure he doesn't shred his tires for that crucial part of the race where everyone starts breaking up.
And that's always been his strong suit. I mean, Andrew Friedage has been a guy who excels in the races where we have those long green flag runs. And I wasn't expecting him to get that bit of an advantage in the opening 3-4 laps that he did. And this is kind of more realistic. Now that Tice and Washington have reeled him back in just a little bit and are pretty close. In fact, Washington is all over the back of the 98 machine right now. So it's Friedage, a car length ahead of Tice, who's got Washington all over him. Of course, Joseph Tice, I mentioned, strong run here in the spring. Not a playoff driver. Only Friedage and Washington, your playoff cars 1 and 3. The other playoff cars right now, Dylan Jones 5th, Daniel Eberhardt 6th. You got race winner from last week, Michael Araya 9th, Kyle Trudell 11th, Grant Davis 12th, and Adam Benefield P12, and now 16 actually, 15th as he passes Brian Chambliss. So on the move, some of those drivers mid-pack try to make some moves early, but Tice is all over the back of the 88, peeking to the inside that time at 1, not enough space to make a move, and now here comes Washington thinking about a fight for second.
He actually ran into the grass in turns 1 and 2 a little bit after into the quad oval rather for Joseph Tice. That's opened up the door though for Washington with lost momentum throughout the corner. Washington just able to take away that bottom line again. You have any mistakes on entry, exit, anywhere in that part of the racetrack, out of the front straightaway, you're going backwards. And now Washington, who needs points tonight, he's in a great spot now in second spot just like that.
And there you see side by side, even for 4th. Behind all of this is Kyle Kamer way out of the groove. There's no PJ1 to help out that outermost lane. So he was way off and into the dirty stuff, and that allowed the 11 of Dylan Jones to get on by David Washington, making that pass on Joseph Tice. So playoff drivers now running 1st, 2nd, and 4th at the front of the field. Remember, they will be identified by those red marks on the on-screen graphics. Those will be back up in just a few moments. But on the cars, you'll be able to tell them apart because the playoff drivers have those boosted pink accents on the front splitter, the windshield banner, and the spoiler. So that's kind of how an easy way is to remember who's in this championship fight for the Full Throttle Cup and who's not. It's the third to last race of 2020. Big pressure moment moments, and so far, those playoff drivers this round have stepped up to the plate. They've occupied most of the top 10 positions, both tonight so far and for a majority of the race at Kansas until it got kind of crazy at the end.
And the main thing's going to be as well, one, defending in positions like that, as well as two, making smart decisions, especially on strategy calls today. This pit road is very difficult. Several drivers, remember, at Kansas, either lost several laps in the pit stop cycle, got caught speeding, or spun their cars around. It's that type of a track here as well. With it being so quick in 3 and 4 to the point where the more aggressive you are in the pit entry, the more time, yes, you can gain, but at the same time, you be over-aggressive, you're likely spinning it around. Near contact is McClendon and Nieto getting involved a little bit there.
That was off of turn 2. The 2 was inside of McClendon, and he pushed up just a little bit. I don't know if it was Nieto getting a little bit tight off of the corner, or if it was just simply maybe he trying to get in line behind McClendon, but ahead of the next challenger in that group of Michael Araya. Either way, they touched. A little bit of a bobble. Everybody recovers. We're good. Now working lap 17 up the road to McClendon to the inside. He'll get on Kyle Kamer here. What a great start to this race, but has dropped 2 spots now in as many laps, and Nieto is going to try to work the bottom in that number 2 Ford to do the same.
I think he was just a little bit too hard on the gas, maybe pushing up that track that previous time, but Rice just taking advantage of this. And once you get stuck like this, your main defense really is hope that the car below you ends up getting a little bit loose. Uriah, for example, a good example, just had a bit of the weeble wobbles. But the main difficult part is you need to have no one else in front of you. Nieto right there just took away the chance for Kyle Kamer to take advantage of that weeble wobble. The main thing also to think about is, though, the more these cars fight, especially that fight for second place, trying to defend each other, the more this helps Andrew Freenosh because he's gaining more and more time on everyone else, and these drivers are just murdering their tires with how they're fighting.
Yeah, he encourages infighting. I mean, that's fine with him, and we're already looking at about a second and change, about 1.3 to 1.4 seconds of fall off, working lap number 19 of this 125-lap contest, as what we saw on lap 2 when these drivers logged, most of them at least, their fastest laps of the race. Also mentioned forgot off of the top that this race, same distance as all of the intermediate races have been in 2020. Watch it a side-by-side battle between Kyle Trudell and Agnell Phillip as they fight for 10th and 11th. This race, 125 laps, 188 miles in total distance for second to last race of the round of 8 next week, Monday night here on RaceSpot TV on the iRacing Sports Network. We go to Martinsville, where we will know our championship for a finale at Phoenix in a couple of weeks. Back on board, Adam Benefield. He was 16th last time I checked in with him. He's on the inside of Trudell. He'll take away P11 to march his way forwards.
Nice clean move there, and of course Malik Ray right behind them as well, willing to take it very aggressive, so keep an eye on him in the back mirror of Benefield. But I want to give a quick shout out to the logos you see now in Phillips' car. A couple weeks ago we noted that at Kansas that there was a bit of a different look. That, of course, A51, which is a race organization ran by streamer Aaron Rodgers on the iRacing service, more known for short track racing. Evan, he's picked up one of the short track aces from that program, Bradley Hill, for the spotter stand tonight. So, for the real world journalist, he's been taking more of a bigger step for a sim racing career, taking his route towards the sim racing team.
Yeah, it's awesome to see Agnell get involved in this series. Of course, one of the late entries here for 2020, and I think that these strong runs indicate that if you can get a full-time schedule in for 2021, that he has a very good opportunity to battle for a playoff spot. Come, when we get around to next season. And, of course, an opportunity maybe even with the RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series in the off-season here on Monday nights as well to maybe fight for a championship in the B-Car Series, getting prepped up for a 2021 campaign. But just behind Agnell is Malik Ray. We said the 51 was going to march through the field. It's exactly what he's been doing, just past Adam Benefield, so he drops number 83 machine back to P12. Malik Ray, your big mover so far. He is plus 13 spots from the start of the race.
Welcome to the Malik Ray experience, everybody, just to say the very least. But the thing that I think is the big thing I think everyone else may have missed from the field is, if you're a driver, is he stayed in 17th for a good while, saved his tires, and guess what? It's now working out because we're at lap 25, and he's quicker on exit than anyone else around this racetrack by at least a couple 100s, and that is huge. He's been able to arc it in smooth, been able to exit the corner smooth, also been able to enter the corner smooth. Perfect run for Malik Ray in the short run to help him for the rest of this race.
I mean, that's what he likes to do. We talked about it right off of the bat, that he uses this time to kind of experiment, work his way through and practice getting it around traffic. He's to the inside of Kyle Kamer right now. That's sort of her 8 machine up on the outside of the racetrack. Kamer, one of the drivers who started as somebody who was fighting for the championship this year and was just missing the cut line to get from the round of 16 to the round of 12, and was eliminated after the first 3 weeks of the playoffs. And it is an easy pass for Malik Ray. He'll get the job done, as this big group of cars mid-pack really won't get off each other. Brian Chambliss has joined the party, about 3 seconds and change off for the race lead. Got 5 cars there within half a second of each other, and even behind them, Kyle Trudell and Grant Davis going side by side.
The thing is, though, the pace for that pack is right now in the 30.4s to 5s from all this fighting like this right here. That was a little bit of a close block. Davis has been aggressive on the block to the white line down the backstretch a few times tonight. But what I'm trying to refer to is the fall off here can be somewhat immense. As talked about, the leaders are running the 30.2s who are not fighting one another. Battles like this just hurt your momentum and hurt your chances for the run. But the thing to think about is, if you get to a green flag pit stop, and if you time up your green flag pit stops perfectly to where you either go for the long overcut and you're able to take advantage of the tire save, or you end up, say, for example, undercutting by 5 laps, and in turn, once everyone equalizes out, you gain yourself maybe a few seconds, you gain a big positive gain. And this is the type of track where, no surprise, Evan, that this is going to potentially work if you do an undercut.
Yeah, drivers, I'm sure, are already thinking about that, and the only reason why strategy gets messed up is if this race gets a little bit ugly. So I was looking earlier about, what we saw in that season, early season race at Texas, and it only had about 3 different yellows for 11 laps, which is pretty standard, I'd say, for an intermediate race. I don't think that that's anything, out of the ordinary or crazy, but what we did see that we haven't seen tonight is a lot of shuffling up through strategy, and sometimes that number gets inflated through a bit of cycle of pit stops, but that race had 7 different race leaders for 13 lead changes. This race so far has been all Andrew Friedage doing what he needs to as he searches for what would be an astonishing 3rd straight Full Throttle Cup Series championship. Got it in 2018, became the first driver not only to go back-to-back, but the first to ever be a multi-time champion last year in 2019, and seems to be in a very good spot to get a 3rd in a row. But one of these drivers on screen has got other ideas, and that's Daniel Epperhart, who may be in a very close tie with Michael Araya to be that 2nd or 3rd favorite driver in the playoffs. Still need to get the job done and get there, though, and Eberhard currently holding off Scott McClendon, who has been very impressive in these playoffs, Justin, despite the fact that he was eliminated a little bit ago.
Yeah, indeed, McClendon, some good pace in the second half of the season. The first half of the year, especially right before the playoffs, was a disaster. But then Las Vegas happened, and, well, he's been carrying the momentum ever since. He's been able to get back to what we've seen from 2019 from him, speed-wise and consistency-wise. If he was like this earlier on, we might be talking about him in the round of 8 at the moment. But now, he's just got to race his own race, knowing you're going out for just the victory at this point. That's something, as a driver, I think he's had to say in his head several times over. And I think that's been helping him, actually, that there isn't as much pressure, so to speak, as fighting for the title. It's just doing your own race and showing what you can do.
Started 6th. He's in 5th. I think somebody else who, if he can keep... And I don't know if, it's any mechanics that have been different. I think it's just a lot of that confidence and that momentum that you mentioned rolling off of a a surprising, a thrilling, and exciting victory in the round of 12 opener from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I think he would just keep that confidence, then he could be somebody who makes that next step and finds himself as one of the drivers looking not only to get to the playoffs, but we come around and do this again next year. But I think, going at least a couple of rounds, and maybe if you find a trip to victory lane with the win-in-you're-in format, that doesn't sound like it's going to change, and it, very closely follows a similar point structure to the NASCAR Cup Series. Scott McClendon's a guy, I think, as well, who could make some noise. And Justin, that's two guys already, only 35 laps into the race, that we've talked about as possible playoff cars next year, right? McClendon and Phillip. And obviously, the only way that they get into the postseason is if they're better and kick somebody else out who's in the playoffs this year. There's always a chance somebody who had one of those 16 spots doesn't run a full campaign next year. But just assuming that they do, I don't want it to sound like we're saying it's going to be a walk in the park for those guys to get in, but it's going to continuously up that level to get into the playoffs in this Full Throttle Cup Series.
Let's compare this to 2019 to 2020 for the season for Andrew Freenosh, which is a great example of this. 2019, well, in some races, when you win a third of the season calendar, you can probably say, I had a bit of a jog, but also some walking moments here and there. This year, it's been almost like trying to sprint through an obstacle course. And that's because, again, the talent level has gone up. Drivers have gotten used to this new package with the lower horsepower on the bigger tracks, as well as the more downforce, compared to others who took a full season to get to where they are right now. Many of these competitors have also improved, and of course, when you talk about some of the drivers like Malik Ray, like Adam Benefield, that push the speed for Andrew Freenosh, this is not the type of same season as before. There's not knowing how things are going to go next year, mind you. We might see even more talent come into play with so much focus here and so many drivers with pro connections here, potentially saying, do you want to join me here? Bit of contact, though. David Washington just got putted by McClendon into the corner.
The 98 got sideways. He's going to hang on to it, but they were all nose to tail, and Washington got sent off, I should say, into the corner by McClendon. McClendon to the outside, and Washington going to squeeze him up the hill to make sure the 22 can't capitalize. You give me some, I'll give some right back. Washington, for the moment, loses nothing. Instead, it's McClendon going backwards. Dylan Jones in the 11 picked up a spot. There goes the 51. Malik Ray as well. So in the end, McClendon ends up being the loser in all of that. Curious what happens next time the 22 gets up to the 98, if he can get back there. But David Washington didn't like it. Cut him off a little bit in 3. Think it ends there.
I think so too, because McClendon, as soon as that happened, apologized to the radio. I almost think that he backed it up a little bit more than what he was expecting, but in turn, David Washington's starting to fall off, and that's one of the things we mentioned. If you have to lift too much here in 1 and 2, you're going to get freight trained. Guess what? Dylan Jones, Malik Ray, they're freight training right now on the bottom side of the racetrack. So the fall off is starting to really demolish the run that the 98 had on the short run, especially where he's up to second. This is not looking fun.
Oh, what a save by David Washington. We thought that it was done. There was more contact as McClendon pushed his way through on the bottom, and the 98 was about halfway sideways. He hangs on. No yellow. We stay green, and now the exchange on the radio between the two of them, not nearly as cordial.
Yeah, that isn't a surprise there, because he was not clear in the first of all things. Second, he tried to squeeze down there. I know there's the importance of getting to the bottom, but at the same time, you need to think about this smart. Now, guess what? Washington, from that, whether it's self-inflicted or emotions come into play, regardless of the situation, has left front damage. And guess what? It's an aero-dependent track. That's going to hurt him the rest of the race unless he gets a caution flag. It's almost like Kansas again.
So how history repeats itself. Here's another look. McClendon on the bottom, and I mean, the 22 does come up a bit, Justin, but you have to think Washington wasn't happy with the first bit of contact, squeezed him a little bit, and probably that's the reason he's into him. If he just gives him more space, I don't think McClendon's going to go up the hill to hit him. That's just the emotions of both of those drivers getting the best of them. And obviously, we talk about Scott McClendon not being a playoff car, but wants to be one next year. Washington is. I mean, these two getting together, again, hurts the 98 far more than it hurts anybody else. As you see, Friedrich putting the 0-2 at Trevin Valderrama a lap down, with Joseph Tice P2 quickly behind in tow.
Should note that John Fowler had to come in and pit, and he's got significant damage. It's been in there for now 1 minute and 40 seconds as well, so some of the drivers have an attrition coming to play, to say the very least. That's also going to come into play as well as potential lap traffic as this run continues, because drivers right now at the back of the field are in the 34s to 31.2s in some cases. The leaders are running as fast as the 30.2s, especially in draft packs such as this. In other words, if you don't have a drafting friend, and or you have damage, and or you have bobbles like that, or the Weeble Wobbles into the corner entry, you're going to have tough sledding until you come down to pit.
So the battle for the race lead, left-hand side of your screen, Friedrich leading Tice and Eberhardt. Right-hand side, the battle for 10th on the back. Sam Nieto has basically pulled away, making it a battle for 11th position with Brian Chambliss on the outside of David Washington, who is trying to get what he can out of a damaged Ford Mustang. He started 17th position, Chambliss, so he's way up, and Washington, who started 7th, is way down. And if his speed the last couple laps is any indication, it's not going to get any better. He's not way off the pace, Justin, like we mentioned with that incident at Kansas. But that little bit, I think, means that if we go green through a cycle of pit stops, he'll be lucky to be a top 20 car in this race. Because you can see Chambliss just plastered on his bumper.
Yeah, he had, right now, Washington, almost, I think, the main thing that's killing him, outside of not just the damages, he's too late getting off the gas. And that's what a lot of discussion had throughout the week trying to learn this track specifically was in turn 1 and 2. It's deceptive how deep you can send it. If you can back it up enough to find that balance first of all, but also to where you're not getting ran over. Say right about as these cars get here, right about here-ish, you're going to be okay on the tire wear for the rest of the run. He's going about 30 feet deeper than that, and that in turn is just destroying his momentum and his entire run and his tires here. But here comes more lap traffic. Trevin's not having fun, it looks like.
Yeah, not a repeat of Kansas, where he got the top 10 finish last week, and McClendon really squeezing Sam Nieto down as that traffic did the right thing, just go to the outside in 3. Thought it may have held up McClendon, but not so, because he completes the pass on Sam Nieto. Scott McClendon now back into position number 9. Interesting, because he fell back. I mean, he was not good in the opening bit of this race. He has since started the charge back towards the front. You can see Nieto to the inside, and also Adam Benefield going to go to the bottom of Agnell Phillip.
Yeah, good run there. Was already into the back bumper just about in turn 1 and 2, nearly running him over. And one of the main things for Phillip has been he knows if you mess with a playoff driver, they're not going to be happy and will remember that. So he's being smart on how he pushes the car whenever he's around a playoff driver. If he feels them holding, he's being held up, usually lets them go. Behind them, though, bit of a squeeze coming off turn 2 from the 22 and the 98 once again as the pit stop window is open for some of the competitors.
Yeah, working lap number 50, so still well shy of halfway, but drivers trying to implement what we expect to be kind of universal two-stop strategy. Can come down to the pit lane now, kick things off. We'll see if that is going to how this one shakes out. They do have 3 sets of tires and a spin. It's Scott McClendon in the 22. Yellow at lap 52. And it was McClendon and Washington.
And it's just outside the field window to make it on a one-stop, including this caution. Wow. That was from 2 car lengths back. That's clear cut.
Well, there was some contact between those drivers early on. Let's ride on board with McClendon. And you can see the number 22 machine. So McClendon leaves the door open a little bit there, Justin, but I think that's mainly because nobody's really running all the way down on that white line to about a little bit deeper into the corner, and Not sure if it was Washington trying to get to the inside and push him up, trying to get to the bumper and push him that way, or what the objective was, but I don't think McClendon had much of a chance there.
Yeah, that was not the best of entries either, and we talked about him sending it too deep. That was even deeper than what he sent in some cases. He was not going to carry that momentum if he would have stuck it on the corner exit, I think. But now, the innocent bystander all this again is McClendon with significant damage. At least Washington's got his caution, I guess.
Well, race leader's going to be down pit road, so it'll be yellow flag of pit service for all the cars up front. Looks like Grant Davis, the only driver not coming to pit road. He will stay out to get a bonus point. Meanwhile, everybody else, this strategy doesn't get messed up much by the yellow. You're just going to do the pit stops under the yellow instead of under the green. 4 tires and fuel. All the top cars. Farinaj will maintain P1. It is Lariah second. I think Eberhardt comes off in third. And followed by Dylan Jones. For a brief moment, your playoff cars occupy all top 5 spots, but we're assuming Grant Davis, Justin, going to be back to pit road very quickly, and his staying out was just to get a bonus point.
And we talked about how close it's been for that top 4. He just confirmed it on the radio, in fact. Every point counts, right? And the thing is, he has been around the teams much of the run. If he feels comfortable to be able to get back up there and stay around there, I don't blame him. Try and score the points when you can, get the lead laps when you can. Yes, you're off cycle, but at the same time, you have to do what you need to do to point your way in if you feel like you're not going to be able to get a win.
And to that point, that's what the 24 machine of Grant Davis just told the Trevin Valderrama, who's going to be disappointed because I think Valderrama was staying out to try to get a lap back by just getting waved around the field, but because not all lead lap cars pitted, he is unable to do so. Here's the look down on pit road of that 11 machine coming off. You can see Thanani Eberhardt, the left-hand side there, side by side, couple of rows, Tice, Malik Ray, also right in the mix. So right now it is showing Grant Davis, the race leader. He said over the radio to Valderrama, though, hey man, sorry about that, but I'm not running real good tonight, so I figured I might as well get a bonus point. So he confirms that's the strategy call.
Here's the part where I don't get it, though, Evan. He didn't come down there.
Yeah, why didn't he pit?
Yeah. He can only go in there 10 laps. On fuel, maybe, give or take, maybe 15. If he doesn't get a caution flag that isn't him within about 5 laps, this strategy doesn't work out at all now to stay out. The pit road's closed, meaning he can't come down with 2 to go unless he wants to serve a penalty, and includes, in some cases, mind you, and we've seen this at Kansas come into play at least once, you have to serve a penalty under green on top of end of the longest line. Just what in the world is Davis thinking? He might get ran over in the corner here.
And of course, you know, he was running 16th at the time, which I believe was the lowest of the playoff cars. So it's not an, incredible run by any stretch, and by his own expectations, I gather. But he will come down to the pit lane this time, and maybe he just takes the EOL penalty, if that's what the penalty will be. Assuming that the lights go out on top of the pace car this time, and I don't think he drove through, so it would be entering a closed pit. If it is just an EOL penalty, I guess it doesn't make much of a difference for him because he was going to be starting at the back anyways. He'll just have about a half a dozen lapped cars in front of him, and that is going to be the case because wave rounds go on through. Looks like it is just Michael Mosier who will go from 1 lap down to, I think, back to the lead lap. And the field will get handed back over to Andrew Farinaj, who just before that yellow, Justin, was getting reeled in by Daniel Eberhardt in the 90, who was making quite a push late. So this race may not be as clear-cut as that first run led us to believe. On the long run, some drivers were conservative early and were actually maybe better than the 88.
I was just about to mention that prior to the caution flag, too, that he was one of the quickest cars in long run, and we've talked about this a few times where he's improved much more compared to this time last year. It took him a full 6 to 7 months to get used to the high downforce package before he got that win back at Dover back in 2019. This year, he's back to the same pace we've seen him with the low downforce package. And this has been keeping Andrew on his toes, I think, to where he can't just run off and away and just continue to save tires. His own friends are keeping up with him. In fact, some cases faster than him. It might be down to one of those two. And don't forget, Malik Ray's waving hello from row 3.
He's moved his way up to position number 6. Pace car down and in. It's a restart with 69 laps to go. Farinaj off and away. Here comes Eberhard in tow.
A nice restart for the bottom line, to say the very least. But Malik Ray, he wasn't able to find a hole, though, to the bottom side of the racetrack. That's going to really hurt him off this run to start. Might be able to get some room, though, with Philip. No, Philip doesn't give him any space, and Benefield's trying to bump draft him.
He's very aggressive back here in the traffic, but they'll stay on the inside. That's going to force the 44-inch Michael Araya up to the top as Dylan Jones goes for the undercut and gets on past him. Tice also through. Malik Ray next up on deck. He'll punch his way through. Michael Araya struggling on the outside. Again, results here don't matter. He's already in to that Phoenix Championship 4. It's a huge bobble by Tice. Malik Ray gets into him. We're 3 wide in turn 3. They're still touching.
That was a little bit early arc from Tyson, a little later arc from Malik Ray, and now Ray's got significant damage. Grant Davis, as mentioned, does have to serve a penalty oven, so this may have hurt Davis's playoff chances by going with the pit road closed. He's going to lose a lap.
A tough break there as he now going to get swallowed up by all of this, and kind of a seemingly confusing call by Davis. I think you got to chalk that up, that it wasn't just the EOL, it was a black flag, that for the 24 machine he just forgot. Lost track maybe, and how many laps were on the board, and what was going to be a bad night for Grant Davis is now a disastrous night. He will need a race win at Martinsville if he wants to advance. Came into tonight only 6 points below the cut line. Could be far more than that after that mistake.
Yeah, the stop and holds up, so we're going to burn him at this very moment. But look at this. Philip is starting to go on a push, and Ray is not going to be happy in that cockpit. That right front fender is fairly crunched in, and that is going to kill him. For in terms of speed and in terms of keeping up with the rest of the leaders. Have to think Ray has to take a deep breath and calm down here, because you never know what's going to happen at this point. We just entered the green light for fuel.
64 laps left to go on the board. Is it able to go down for an extreme short pit, or do they try to get some of the freshness out of these tires before they start to think about it? Maybe go for more so a halfway point in this run, pit closer lap number 90 or 100. We'll see how it shakes out, but up front, as you see Malik Ray now make a pass at Agnew Phillip, he is at a race-high P5. He's now got all playoff cars up the road. Faridaj, Eberhard, Jones, Benefield, 1, 2, 3, 4. Majority of the pack, though, much tighter together this run than they were on the initial start of the race.
I think that's in part how the temperatures of the track are faring out. The track temp dropped 4 degrees from the green flag already. The winds have still been gusting, though, 11 miles an hour to the south, and that we talked about was causing a lot of problems at Kansas. It's caused a bit of squirreliness in turn with some of the speeds off turn 2, where there's a little bit of a dip with that transition from the banking to the flat part of the back straightaway. But mostly everyone else has been able to conquer that, including Daniel Eberhard, who, as long as he doesn't clip that apron like he just did there, might have a shot at attacking Freenotch in the next couple laps for this lead.
You can see first and second pulled away from everybody else, so certainly Daniel Eberhardt's got the best opportunity out of anybody if he wants to get this thing done. Those cars further on the back, drafting, trying to not fall off Jones and Benefield, but honestly, if I'm third and fourth, I think my primary concern is Malik Ray behind me, not the 2 lead cars ahead of me. As the 90 machine looks high, I mean, Daniel Eberhardt's doing everything he can. I'm not sure how much of a window the 88's going to give, slicing to the inside, and what a move by Daniel Eberhardt. Just like that, a new race leader at lap 65. Eberhardt going to go to the point.
That wasn't a window left open. That was a garage door left open. Just let him on go, knowing that Eberhard was coming in quick, especially at the end of that last run. Now the fun part's going to be how the strategy comes in. With 60 to go, there's still plenty of laps, yes, Evan. At the same time, drivers may try and split it, and we may see some desperation from some of these playoff drivers at this rate, stretching for the caution. And with what we've seen at Texas, things can get wild when tempers are flaring because everything is bigger in Texas. Am I right?
We've seen the tempers early. It was Scott McClendon and David Washington. Those drivers going back and forth, back and forth. Washington now down in 20th position. Second lowest of the playoff cars, only to Grant Davis, who is now 2 laps down, position 28, after getting a stop-and-go penalty for pitting with a closed pit after he stayed out to get a single bonus point. Threw away about 10 points to get that 1 point, and now the top 4 starting to close back in on each other. And Faridas, you talked about the garage door he left open. It didn't look like he was that concerned with Daniel Eberhardt going to the inside on him, and maybe this is why, because he intended to give it right back to him. Back to the bottom goes the 88. He'll give a shove from Adam Benefiel, a huge boost to speed into turn number 1, and just as quickly as he got it, Eberhardt has lost it. It's Faridas in front for a moment, then on to get a battle back on the outside.
These two are friends with one another, but at the same time, I don't be surprised here if Eberhardt tries to fight this on back. I think he tries to try and cut down and get back to the bottom side. If he can here, the problem is Benefiel just filled the hole. He nearly hooked the 88.
You had to be careful there. You know that number 83 machine was going to be sitting there and waiting for that door to open. The Nani machine thought about it, and you can see the 83 quickly filled the gap, but now it's once again Eberhardt better on the outside. That's fine and dandy at a turn number 2, but down here, if he can squeeze the 83 enough, unable to center off. So Benefiel now going to have the slight advantage. He should probably get this done in 1 and 2, and it's not getting any easier for Eberhardt because Jones right there waiting. So is Malik Ray. Denani desperately needs to either win this battle or find a spot in line.
At this point, I think he might get some reprieve from, well, his sponsor mate. In fact, no, Dylan Jones says, you know what? I'm just going to wave goodbye to you as well for the SK Designs teammate for sponsorship. But I think for Eberhardt, I don't know if there's any space that he's going to find here all the way back maybe to Ryan at this point. Ray's been aggressive on the corner entries. Phil may be able to back down. Raya, though, may be able to push the issue here. It's just a matter of exit. That's a good exit right there to do it.
You can see how high up the hill that was behind that battle Michael Araya was, and he is Agnel Phillip are doing the battle, but it looks like as Malik Ray now way up against the outside wall, and his night may come to an end. That it looks like that Daniel Eberhardt going to be the big loser in all of this. He falls all the way to position 4 from the race lead to 4th in about 5 laps.
Well, even Malik Ray has elected to park his car, so that also helps Eberhardt in the point situation, but still, the focus has to go up towards the front because I think Eberhardt's going to be back at the end, towards the end of this run. It's the matter, though, of how Benefiel plays this now with his best position yet, and how Jones tries to improve in his last run, because this is the furthest it seemed to get. It's almost like he hit a brick wall or an air bubble from this point onward. And now he's getting pushed on backwards almost because he just seems to not take the corner as well compared to Freenosh at the moment, and how Eberhardt is backing it off the save.
So a game of chess, this time at 177 miles an hour. Center returns 3 and 4, this time by 52 laps to go. So again, we are within our fuel window at about a dozen laps past the halfway point in this boosted Club 125. But I think these drivers pretty much indicating that they want to use the freshness in the tires before they just come down. So I'm not expecting a big rush to pit road just yet. Probably going to be coming, like I said, maybe closer to lap number 90 would be my marker, but just in monitoring fall off. You talked about that undercut a little bit earlier. Some drivers could certainly implement that, especially in a race like this where you got the top 7 cars the last time by within 1 second of each other. You can make up that second in a 1 lap difference on pitting alone. So might not help you long run, but maybe track position could sway somebody into trying to implement that undercut strategy.
I want to be shocked here to see some of that, in fact, and especially since Eberhardt's really lifting off, it seems, in turn 3 to save that front tire. The main thing is going to be, though, making sure you keep within touch of these cars, because the draft as well, if you aren't with the draft partner with this package here at Texas, it can hurt you. and hurt you a bit by a few tenths a lap. These drivers already up to 1.3 seconds of fall off this run.
A lot of communication through the field as well as you're looking off at the back of Daniel Eberhardt. Some other battles going on right now. Way back, Sam Nieto and Jared Mogard for 9th and 10th. Matt Mara was in a battle with David Washington and Ross Cato even further down the running order. So everybody fighting for something. If it's to be that spoiler, Justin, which we have seen so far at least one in each round of these playoffs. In the round of 16, it was Malik Ray winning the opener at Darlington. In the round of 12, it was that Scott McClendon Las Vegas win that you mentioned. And so far, in the round of 8, it has not happened because Michael Araya became the first playoff driver this year to win an opener of a round. So if there's going to be a surprise winner this round, at least right now, not looking like it's happening at Texas because your playoff cars are 1st through 4th, and they also occupy 7 of the top 9 spots on tracks. Doesn't mean it's not good battles behind because we're watching the action between the 2 and the 00.
I mean, we've seen the past couple mile-and-a-half races, right? Especially with moves like this that nearly lead to contact and in turn bring out caution flags. There's been so many of these cases towards the endings of races where aggression levels get high, emotions start boiling over, and in turn, it's affected the race. And as a playoff driver, it really frustrates you in those cases. The main thing I emphasize in all that is you have to think big picture. You may be steaming mad. You may want to punt the person in front. But really, as a driver myself, you have to really put me 150 out of 10. To really punt you out of the way. That's the best way to know when that is the case. As a driver here for these, it almost looks like if it's a 5 out of 10, they've been willing to just shove them into the corner. And that in turn has caused some of the attrition and caused some of the problems for some of these competitors that have hurt so many playoff drivers, like Chambers, who could have won at Las Vegas if he had one more set of corners before what happened there. What happened at Kansas, another good example, where several drivers had a good shot, then pandemonium struck there again. You have to remember that if you're especially a non-playoff driver like these two fighting side by side, what you do can affect the run. Battle for the lead, side by side though.
Up at the front of the field, it's Adam Benefield at the inside of Andrew Freitas. Nose to nose, side by side. In a battle for the lead, here comes Dylan Jones. He won't go 3 wide. Instead, he'll shove Benefield into turn 1. And for the first time tonight, the 83 sits in first. It's Benefield to the race lead, working lap 82.
Got the run he needed to, and that just opened up the door underneath Freenosh and company, and this could get the strategy thoughts turning here. Benefield now getting some lead laps, some clean air. Good chance for him to try and pull away. The main thing to think about still is Eberhardt's still with them and is still closer on corner exit than anyone else right now compared to him.
And I thought that it was going to be Eberhardt once he got out in front. Freitas passed him back quick, and now the cars who once ran 1-2 run 3-4 because Dylan Jones has also gotten around the 88 courtesy of following Benefield on the bottom. So maybe it's Dylan Jones' turn to get a bonus point. There is one single bonus point available for leading a lap as he nearly drives that car through the grass looking to the inside.
Yeah, this is to where, again, you get the run, you're going to try and take it. There's not a lot of space in the quad oval. Don't be surprised to see Benefield block all the way down to the apron here, knowing how important this lead can be, especially for the start of the pit stop cycle. We may see some very aggressive moves here. Don't be surprised to see Jones try and set it up into 1 here.
Well, they use those kinks on that tri-oval front straightaway. Look at Jones. He is all over the back of Benefield, maybe trying to loosen him up a little bit, but the 83 stays planted. And unlike Kansas, unlike Vegas, unlike Kentucky, some of the other intermediate racetracks on the schedule where you have that kind of curved front straightaway where it is very smooth transition, there are not those double kinks on the front straightaway. Here at Texas, you do have those two kinks and provides an opportunity, like we saw Eberhardt do, to dive to the inside to lead, and a caution behind your leaders. At lap 86, Jared Mogard is slow.
Here's what happened here, and that was around Sam Nieto and Chambliss. What did I say? If you get a run to the bottom, somebody's going to try and block that, and Mogard tried to block it. Kyle Kaber had none of it.
Tried to force his way down. That spot was not available, and Mogard ends up turning himself over the nose of the 8. You can see Kamer there. No intention, Justin, of lifting.
And I mean, do you blame him there? If you lift, you're basically saying you can do it over and over again. He, again, was there. He was committed to the line. Mogart had already tried to bobble from the top wall down that line, and in turn, it turns up those yellow lights alongside the fencing. And makes it interesting. Everyone can make them from here. And if we have an air caution for here, that can really open up the tire strat, since there will be one more set of tires available for the entire field.
The Mogard is hit with the razzle-dazzle. He spins, and race leaders looking for pit road. 87 laps down, 38 laps to go. If they all take 4, as you just mentioned, they will all still have a set of 4 tires in the box. Should this race have subsequent yellows and restarts later on? We didn't see the positions change last time on pit road. Let's see if they can all execute.
And a couple times Dylan Jones has overran the box in some of these playoff races. You can see just how tight it can be on the mark, and slid the tires. He did it again. He just did it again.
And you can see how far behind he is up the road. Farinaj already back to the left side tires. Jones just now getting off the jack. So the race off of pit road. It is Benefiel 1, Farinaj 2, side by side for third. Agnel Phillip edging out Daniel Eberhardt. Lariah goes P5, and Dylan Jones, who at the time, and as he came down pit road, was 4th. He'll drop a spot, 2 in fact, down to 6th.
So that throws the tire saving out of the equation a little bit there. At this point, you take a run or get a run, you're taking it. I think the give and take is likely somewhat gone now, especially for if you're Benefiel or Farinaj, knowing you can lock yourself in tonight, or if you're Eberhardt, or if you're Jones, or if you're Trudell, who's up to 8th spot after being in the teens for parts of the race.
It has been less than an exceptional race for some of these cars up here. I mean, for Agnel Phillip, we talked a lot about his speed. He's started 20th. He'll now be P5. Still heavily weighted in favor of the playoff cars. Benefiel, Farinaj, Eberhardt, Lariah, Jones, and Trudell, your top playoff cars, 1st through 6th. Washington still down in 14th, and Grant Davis gets a lap back, so that's important. And I think, he's only going to get 1 lap back. So he'll be 1 lap down. He wants more yellows. He'll be in a lap down race with Tom Moreno fighting for the lucky dog. If we get out of the yellow, he could get back to the lead lap, Justin, to make up for that pit road mishap that cost him last time around.
Yeah, he said on the radio after that he didn't realize that was the penalty, but that's the crazy part. It happened at Kansas. It happened at the previous race. It happened a few times in the playoffs already. You pit with the pit road closed, you're going to have to serve a penalty during the green flag. You have to know this at this point, knowing it happened to a couple of your competitors and it cost them dearly in the previous rounds. If Davis doesn't advance, this is the main cause. He needs attrition, and quick, now, for anything to happen to him, to say the very least. And at the same time, he might get it with how crazy the racing was early on with blocking 3 wide. We might see it again now.
Yeah, the second restart was much tighter than what we saw in the initial green flag of this race, and I don't think we're going to be shocked if this one is again, because they can go the distance. I think it's going to take at least probably 15 to 20 at least laps in this run to be completed before a yellow would lead cars to pit road. I don't think we're going to see 5 laps and then drivers dive down, because that would be the only tires they have available. And of course, as always, 3 attempts at overtime if we should need it. So that is, obviously a big part of the conversation. So that's why drivers may want to hang on to those tires until a little bit later in the run. Nonetheless, who knows how this one's going to shake out for the moment. All drivers, especially these playoff cars, again, who have the most on the line, just as good a chance as one another to get a race win here at Texas, punch their ticket to that Phoenix Championship 4.
I'm curious how Philip plays this now, since this is now one of his best shots to win a race. He was up towards the front in Las Vegas in a few races, in fact, in these playoffs, as we've seen. He might try be a bit more aggressive now, especially with the help of the spotter to know where the runs are going to be. I wouldn't be surprised as well to see anyone else like Joseph Tice try and say, you know what, I don't want to place blue after being so close in the previous rounds. It's about to get fun. Fasten up those seatbelts.
Fun for who you're asking. Pace car off and in, side by side on the front row. It's going to be Adam Benefiel alongside the 88 of Andrew Fernandez. Green flag flies. We're back underway. 35 laps to go from Texas. We ride with the 90.
You can just see how smooth he is on the gears, as well as trying to time it up for the perfect revs on that bottom left right corner of your screen. Perfect run to the bottom. Hits it to the apron, though.
He got all the way down to the inside on the back straightaway. The Nani car below the white line. Wonder if he got a little bit sideways off of the corner. Now he's on the back of Phillip. Phillip looking to the inside. Eberhardt plastered on the deck lid. It's Dylan Jones who has fallen off of this restart. He's down into position 5 already.
And Phillip is loose. Phillip is loose. Here we go.
Eberhardt to the outside in 2. The 94 catches it. He'll stage a side-by-side race down the back straightaway. This battle for 3rd on back. The 90 of Eberhardt trying to clear, but Agnew Phillips got his feet underneath him once more. He'll now power back on the inside. He'll be pushed by the 11 of Dylan Jones.
You can see with the wheel movements and how tight it is. Eberhardt knows it's a non-playoff driver who has given a lot of take throughout this race. Guess what? Philip, knowing he's got a chance for a good finish here, he's not backing down, and that seems to be really frustrating Eberhardt. He is really, really tight to the door of that 94, and this is hurting him a lot. Half a second loss to the top 2.
This is just killing these cars 3rd on back, because even though they're enthralled in the battle for the race lead, you can see on the onboard shot with Eberhardt up the road, 1st and 2nd for the moment are not side by side, so they are pulling away. The advantage is now to Eberhardt again. Phillip just needs to hang on the quarter panel to get out of 4, and it's exactly what he does. He'll pull back alongside. Last time by, it was a half a second difference. This time through, about even, as Fernandez was trying to make some moves at Benefiel, so 1-2 don't pull any further.
This has been the best I've seen anyone try and defend on the high side. I think Phillips said, you know what, I'm going to give you the space. We've fought for too long. That is exactly what Eberhardt needed already. About a 100th and a half picked up on the top 2 already. He's coming in fast.
Closing the gap. Once he got around Agnew Phillip, I think we knew that Eberhardt was going to put it to it, and you can see about a car length ahead of the 94 now. 2 car lengths off of the battle for the race lead. Here comes the 88 from the outside to the inside, all the way to the bottom in turn 3.
That was an aggressive move there from Freenosh. We'll have to see if Benefiel thinks about that, as here comes Eberhardt and company.
The 83 is slow off of 4. He falls to 3rd, maybe worse, as now it's Eberhardt to the inside of the race leader. That door going to be shut. You're on board with Benefiel. He doesn't look that stressed, but I bet he is. Fighting for his playoff life. Look at Phillip behind. He blocks Dylan Jones to the apron. They are scrapping for P4 as your race leaders for a moment are single file.
Look at this, though. Trudell wants to gain some spots here. Joseph Tice, though, I don't think realizes that he's not square. Race lead side by side again as Eberhardt sent it on the bottom.
And Eberhardt not going to have the run on the inside. That's going to go to Ferdinand, using that 20 degrees of banking. But as they both stay flat-footed now, down in 3 and 4, they'll enter wide, tighten up a little bit. It seems like the bottom's the place to be. And maybe pushed a bit by Benefiel is Eberhardt. He goes back to the lead. Now it's the 88 Ferdinand down in 3rd. And Benefiel will cut Eberhardt a break there. Just a moment to catch his breath and breathe. This is all going on. That time by 27 laps to go.
And we've seen how aggressive the previous blocks were when Freenach was up in the front. Benefiel has to be thinking, if they're willing to go underneath the white line to the bottom of the racetrack, all the way to the inside safer barrier, I have to be willing to do the same. The dangerous part of that, though, is if you get to the inside, some drivers will not give you that slack. And I've seen in some cases, especially if you think back to the SimSpeed broadcast of NAS competition in the springtime, that led to the leader getting hooked into the fence.
A lot of bobbling. I mean, we haven't seen these cars move around this much all night long. Even Agno Phillip on his own. A little bit of a bobble that time at a turn 2. Is it really struggling now is Andrew Ferdinand. I did not foresee this happening late in this race. But he is down to 5th, and it might get worse because Kyle Trudell now to his inside wants to take another spot away. There's a whole host of cars stacked up. So if Ferdinand can't get this spot here, he could lose half a dozen, and that's why he drove it so hard down the back straightaway, slicing to the bottom, and he will maintain P5 as he holds off the 7.
Now, he's not getting any slack from his Road to Pro bestie when they worked together with Lowline this season. At that point, though, I think Trudell said, you know what, I'll give you a chance to get back in, but they're bump drafting off the corner.
They are all over each other, and the Nani machine going to hold the white line. He remembers that big aggressive move by Ferdinand, who faked to the outside wall and then swung it all the way down to the white line to just hold it there. Not allow anybody to get inside of you, especially at that 3 and 4 end of the racetrack, where again you stay full throttle through a majority of the run. Now Phillips tight in the corner. Benefiel side by side with him for 2nd. Ferdinand and Jones fighting for 4th as it's Michael Lariah up and out of the group behind him. That'll give a spot to Joseph Tice, and the 2 is Sam Nieto.
Way too tight off the corner was that 44 now, as there's the squeeze again, and Phillip again. He wants this win in bad. He wants to play spoiler here. It's happened just about every single round. In fact, it has every single round. Can we get a 3rd spoiler and 3rd non-playoff driver win overall in these playoffs?
And you would think that all the side-by-side for 2nd would benefit the leader to be able to pull away, but unlike when it was a 2-car duo ahead of the battle lane, Eberhardt on his own isn't able to gain really anything here. Again, these cars with that huge hole they punch in the air with the big spoiler on the rear end, which leads to some of that tightness, which keeps these cars together in a pack, is also what is not allowing the Donnie car to get too far away. And in a field that has 5 of the top 6 cars being playoff cars, Agno Phillip can taste a spoiler. He's now up to 2nd and closing on the 90. Behind him, a resurgence for the 88 as Ferdinand, who was just down in P6, will take 3rd back away from the 83 of Benefiel.
Had a really good run there into the corner, just nowhere to take it quite yet. It might take another couple laps to close in. The difficult part is, we're in a window where we'll have about 5 to 10 laps of that fall-off period we talked about where you can break away. Just need to time this up right, because if you get the clean air right before then, it might be the decider.
19 laps to go now from Fort Worth, Texas, to the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. It is the middle race on the round of 8 for the 2020 RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Boosted. Phillip is there, but it's not just a 2-horse race. The last time by, the top 9 cars were all within 1 second of your race leader. Side by side now, it's Jones under Benefiel for 4th.
Here comes the run, though, again from Phil. Just trying to time it up right. He has an opportunity if he wants to maybe send it. I think he's just waiting for if he gets a big enough amount of run, to just be able to get it on the entry. That may get it. Here comes the big block.
All the way to the apron goes the Noddy. Phillip tried to get underneath him, but Eberhardt saw it coming, and it almost got bad. Now a caution flag behind your leaders, and a spinning, I think maybe John Rodden.
He had been saying some tempers on the radio were starting to flare around him. I think the tempers may have boiled over and then some for John Rodden. He had been having one of his cleaner races in a while. It was self-inflicted, I believe, though. He smacked the wall down the backstretch, endured the car underneath him hard. Believe it was Mogard who got into.
Yeah, that was a late look, but it was all on his own. We had just talked about the cars getting tight into Justin. I mean, right there you can see he's off and into the light stuff. That car is way off the corner, and then as he got loose, correcting it back off the turn, he came down on Mogard, who had no way to avoid him.
Well, this changes a lot. Strategy may open up because of this, and good job there for Kaczynski to keep himself out of that incident. But now, this is everyone's worst nightmare because someone may stay out. Someone may try to roll the dice here. Someone may try to. Looking like most people are not rolling the dice except for Michael Kaczynski. Everyone else has said, you know what, we ran too many laps.
When they can roll the dice on pit road, they all have a full set of 4 tires. They have been out there for 22 laps. Do some drivers opt to go for just 2 of those that did decide to come down pit road? At least at the front of the field, the decision's going to be 4, but that is not universal. Look at Agnell Phillip just shy as Daniel Eberhardt is the first car off on 4, but it is Jeremy Miller, right side tires only, who will go 12th, I think, to probably second position, with Michael Kaczynski having not pitted at all.
We'll have to see if the 30 stays out here. Again, a bold call from him. And I don't know if this is the type of track, though, you want to try this. Kansas, you could get it to work since the bottom was good on the short run, then everyone migrated to the top. With it being bottom dominant, he needs to be able to be near perfect on the margins, only about maybe 7/10 to a second of fall during that run. But those 2 tires are really going to make it dicey now for Miller because he needs to hope he can make it stick for maybe a lap or so. Looks like that's going to put Miller in the lead, though, with Kaczynski saying, you know what, I want to go back in. I don't know about this call.
Yeah, reconsiders it, and was not a play for points because he's not even going to get a bonus point out of it. He was so far back in line that he didn't actually lead the lap at which he stayed out because the cars on pit road crossed the start-finish line before he was able to cycle on through. So he comes in, which means that everybody gets pit service. The difference is, again, everybody on 4 with the sole exception of Jeremy E. Miller. And when we talk about the points picture coming into this race, and we talk about the playoff drivers and the non-playoff drivers, Justin, I'm not sure that there is, there's much to lose in this case for Miller because he is, a limited schedule driver, only 6 starts so far this year, no top 5s, no top 10s. He wants to go for the win, right? I mean, I'm not sure if this is a gamble that somebody in the playoffs would risk. For Miller, I was running in 12th. Who cares if this doesn't work and you finish 22nd, right? I mean, it doesn't matter either way. He's here to try to win races, and I just think it's going to be a long, maybe dozen or so laps, but why not? Let's ride on board with him through the pit stop.
Yeah, nice and smooth in the box. And you see it right here, just up on the jacks. Waits for the timing here. You see him start to rev up that motor just to try and build up some speed. Fuel tank comes off to be able to fill it. Bye-bye. Just able to launch, doesn't speed, quickly and cleanly to the right side, and just quick enough to jump everybody else. For Miller, though, his best finish of the season, 21st at Daytona. He's led laps in the past at Michigan as well, but man, this is rolling the dice and then some here. He's DNF'd twice, mind you, this season with attrition and some calls like this in the past.
Well, the lights are out on top of the pace car. We are set for a restart that will come by to take lucky number 13. 13 laps to go in this race. It is A non-playoff driver on a 2-tire call leading the race, and then all the playoff cars stacked up behind. Eberhard, then Phillip, non-playoff car. Playoff drivers, Ferdinand, Jones, Benefield, Trudell, your top 7. Nieto, Stanford, and Tice round out your top 10. For those who took 4 tires, pun intended, they have no tires left on pit road. Not sure if there's any situation in which those 2 lefts benefit Jeremy Miller late. I think it's just too late in the race, and this is his Hail Mary. But just to know that everybody has used up all their tires, with the exception of the number 27, who's going to try to make it work on some 20-lap older left-side Goodyear Eagles in the midst of a championship battle. Pace car down and in, this time at a 4. It is the 27's field to restart. He'll take 13 laps to go from Texas. Can Jeremy Miller pull it off?
Nice and clean on the gas. First gear has been the best gear for the restarts. No tire spin is the big key thing. The main thing is going to be, though, Miller, for 1, can't afford to lose the bottom. For 2, can't afford to go 3 wide. The middle line may come into play, and Miller's not even going to fight it here.
He's just too slow off of 2. It's Eberhard to the bottom. They got that much speed wound up already. Inside of 3 and 4. 3 wide for second as Dylan Jones squeezes through the middle. Miller, 2 tires will not work. He falls like a rock, and the 90 goes to the race lead.
Not sure why he'd make the call to immediately say, you know what, I'm going to give up all these spots. But he was too slow to even try anything. So now, the fight's going to be for who's going to be able to hold on to the bottom with the fresher tires here, especially with everyone going to be near full throttle from here on out.
And Benefield is all over the back of Agnew. Phillip with nowhere to go. He looks to the inside. The 94 going to throw a block. Them left side tires down into the AstroTurf. Nieto halfway down and into the grass. They're going to stack up behind. The 2 is Sam Nieto into the outside wall, and he will collect Andrew Ferdinand.
And now this is just turned into disaster for Andrew. Led a majority of the laps at Kansas. Could have won there. Now, it's a must-win for a track where he's had a rough history at. Take a look at this. There was a massive, massive, massive check. Because
right
Phil...
here.
Yeah. Phillip is
like
going
third in line. I mean, yeah, right there. So Phillip's getting pushed, I think, by Benefield. He wants a way through. And this is the end of the racetrack, Justin, where they're lifting, right? I think we saw a similar incident where maybe somebody with Washington maybe initially just caught off guard, but watch. They all just stack up, stack up, stack up. Nieto goes around so quick, and then it's actually Ferdinand getting turned from behind. I thought that he had just driven into the wreck, maybe. Let's look from above. Oh, there was 2 bits of contact. Look at the 27 of Miller. Miller, who was slow, got pushed by Stanford, and he hooked the 88 in a somewhat separate incident, but obviously it all stems from that checkup. And Andrew Ferdinand, we talked about, the 2-time defending series champion, came into this evening only 1 point above the cut line. He now has the gauntlet in front of him, basically needing a win at Martinsville, a race earlier this year, which he led the most laps, but finished 18th in.
There's not going to be enough time to react, though, with all of that, because it happened so fast, maybe a few tenths of a second. Seemed like, again, Phil lifted a bit more than anyone else expected there to back it up, to build up a run, to try and see if he can get underneath Eberhard, and then turn it all stacked up. At the same time, Benefield has been pushing a lot in this race in the closing 30, 40 laps or so, really trying to force Phil to make a mistake, it seemed, or at least try and push the momentum forward for that 94. Just seemed to all come into a head, and now, again, I wouldn't be surprised to see another bold move here coming off the restart from driver like Benefield. Again, with him being so aggressive on these launches, and now him on the bottom line. On the bright side, if you're a Grant Davis fan, he's got 7-lap pressure tires. I'm not sure he's going to use them, though. Be able to use them, though, from 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah, I said I wasn't sure how much the lefts were going to work, but you might as well take them. So he was down to the pit lane, and put the left side tires on, got it fixed. His benefit is only 7 laps, so I don't think he's going to gain much, especially because he's restarting back in the number 23 spot, which doesn't help things much either. Sam Nieto will claim responsibility for the incident. Doesn't really matter running order-wise because that car is destroyed. He drops to the back, and Andrew Freitas with damage is on pit road in 24th. He's going to leave pit road to avoid going a lap down, so he's looking to maybe get like a P20. I think out of this would be ideal.
I think at this point you're hoping for some luck and one thing for attrition. Stay out of the attrition 2 and 3. Absolutely get top 20 minimum. If you can get top 15, I think that'll be jumping up for joy. But an interesting call here. Eberhardt's taking the high side here, and I think he's doing this again because he knows about how Philip is taking that corner and boxes Benefiel in as a result.
And if I'm the 90th Daniel Eberhardt coming into tonight, we talk about the championship standings once more. I'm second in the points, but that's not a big bonus. That was only 9 above the cut line. Even if a playoff driver, different playoff drivers, win all 3 races in this round of 8, there's going to be at least 1 spot guaranteed on points, and right now I'm the highest driver on points, if I can stay ahead of Kyle Trudell behind me. If Agnell Philip Justin throws a huge move to the apron or tries to squeeze it to the outside, if you're Daniel Eberhardt, do you risk wrecking the car to stop a guy who has nothing to lose to the race win to get an automatic lock? Or do you let him go and take the points? Going to be a balancing act, and honestly, I'm not sure you're going to have enough time to think it through that methodically when you're doing 180 miles an hour on a late race restart, but I'm sure that's what he's thinking about right now.
Honestly, I would let him go to the apron if he's willing to do it. Say, you know what? If you want it, that's so bad, take it. And then try and get the move back the next couple of laps or so if I can squeeze to the bottom. The thing is, with Eberhardt, what he's shown tonight, his tendency has been block all the way to the apron if he has to and not give any space to Philip. The big thing's going to be, will Philip let him do it again? Because he's done it twice. Some drivers don't like it after that many times and being that close to being right across your front nose.
Still inside of regulation. When we come around, it will be a 6 lap to go restart. And it does look like Eberhardt has indeed decided to restart on the outside. The first time we have seen somebody do that all night long.
And again, I think this is a smart call to box in Benefiel, knowing if he gave Benefiel the chance to start behind him, he likely attacks down the backstretch. Instead, he gets to try and have the adventure of dealing with Philip, with how Philip has been and how Benefiel has basically shoved him for a good 20, 30 laps or so every time down the quad oval. In our words, this gets him rallying up, gets him boxed in with Dylan Jones getting a good launch potentially behind him. Good shot here for Eberhardt to try and hold on here.
Got a bit of wiggle room on what he wants to restart this race, but it doesn't matter how good of a jump he gets. He knows the draft will bring those cars to him. He knows he will have to fight to defend this race lead. Pace car off. Green flag flies. 6 laps to go from Texas. Eberhardt looking for a trip to Phoenix.
And that worked out even better than I think Eberhardt expected. Jones was able to actually get in front of Benefiel too. The main thing's going to be now, and where will the runs come? They're all the way to the apron yet again.
Now Phillips going to stay low so that the 11 Dylan Jones can't get underneath him. Jones goes high, so does Benefiel. Neither gain anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, all lined up single file. The 90 has to protect the bottom. Phillip going to get pushed. The 11 car. Dylan Jones is in the grass. What a save. He stays on track.
Yeah, the quadruple bumps are not going to work, and now Benefiel's getting pushed now by Jones.
Oh, he got hit in 1. You can see the onboard there. It is an absolute melee on the back straightaway. 4 wide as nobody has a home into turn 3. They hang on. Jones fell to 9th. Benefiel fell to P6. It's a 2-car breakaway at 4 laps to go.
The main thing's going to be, though, can this stay green? No, Benefiel's getting turned.
Sideways in turn one, he saved it again. He got hit once. The second time he got hit by the one of Joseph Tice, but he caught it again. No yellow still. We stay green. Chambliss sole possession to third. Phillip chasing the 90, now with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, this is exactly what Eberhardt wanted to see, and then some. Everybody's busy finding each other to the point where some of the non-playoff drivers have just been able to pounce here. This is perfect. Take a look at this, though. Tice was there. Benefield tried to squeeze down a bit. In turn, gets shoved hard from behind. Now has spoiler damage. There was a bit of a push-up, yes, for the one, but that was way too close for Comfort to try that. Now Phillip, though, he's got a great run down the front.
Trying to play spoiler. Agno Phillip looking to the inside. The 90 throws the block. Daniel Eberhardt read that one the entire way. And don't look now. Here comes Chambliss. He's digging hard on the outside of 1 and 2. If the race leaders battle, could he come in as well? The 90 Daniel Eberhardt looking for the white flag to make this race official.
And this is going to come down to that straightaway if you're Phillip. Set it up off turn 2, get to the inside, and if you get to the apron, you've seen what Eberhardt's been willing to do. Just take it if you get it.
And he doesn't gain much. Neither does Chambliss. It's going to be a 2.5 car length difference first to second. Is Agno Phillip too far behind? Daniel Eberhardt trying to hold on, and at turn number 4, the last ditched move going to be too short, and Daniel Eberhardt wins at Texas and joins the championship 4.
And they are wrecking all over the place in the middle of the grass. Trevin Valderrama slid to the grass. Mogart was turned into the grass. McClendon crashed on the last lap. They knew we crashed it 3 times. We're about to battle for P4 and 5 for playoff spots.
Yeah, it was the 9 and the 1 that started all of the wrecking. Joseph Tice contact with the 9 machine as it was basically a demo derby in turns 3 and 4. That's what caused all of the chaos. But again, on the white flag, it doesn't matter. And Daniel Eberhardt is going to celebrate. It's been a career season for the driver of the number 90 machine, one of RSR's longest tenured veterans. With this win, retying Andrew Farinaj for the most wins in 2020. It's his 6th of the year. And as he parks it on the front straightaway, he will join race winner Michael Araya from last week in Kansas as the 2 drivers locked in to that Phoenix finale. Here's the final lap and the contact with the 1 and a 9.
Yeah, there was already that big checkup, and right there, Thomas George just gets ping-ponged. Then you have Trevin Valderrama driving around, just trying to finish this race in 26th, and he says, you know what? I'm just going to go into the grass, because why not?
Yeah, take a trip through, and actually, that was... I'm just taking a look at the standings to confirm this. It's not going to get one. I thought it was going to be a pass for position because he did beat Jared Bogard the line, but Valderrama was still a lap down, so he was not able to catch up to McClendon or George. And there's a look at your finishing results, much like Kansas. A wild end to this race. Daniel Eberhardt wins, locks into the championship 4 with fellow playoff drivers Kyle Trudell in 5th, Dylan Jones 6th, and David Washington P7.
Right behind them, several different non-playoff drivers. Tice, Cato, Kamer had chances to win this race, rounded up that top 10, but Jeremy Miller, that 2-tire call still gets him a P11 finish in this one, Evan. Grant Davis recovered to 12th because of all the carnage in the final few laps and able to take advantage of several different checkups to even pass Adam Benefield, who finished 13th. Michael,
I feel like it's going to be a zero-sum game for him because he was behind coming into tonight, so he avoids disaster. I think it means he doesn't need to win at Martinsville, but I think where it could have been, definitely a plus. You mentioned Benefield 13th, the likes of Soa, Morano, Mosier. Did we ever talk about any of those guys just at all race long? They're in there behind him in position, and you've also got playoff cars Michael Orion 19th and Andrew Farinaj P21. What a disastrous end for the second straight week.
This is now crisis mode if you're Andrew Farinaj. I'm not sure if he can get the win at a track like Martinsville. It's been one where it's been wide open with the attrition this year and in the history of the facility, because there's a reason that Martinsville is one of the toughest short tracks on the service. It's known for carnage, and tons of carnage. If you finish with a front bumper, you may as well get yourself a grandfather clock, because that's how rare it is at that track. What a running order and what a finish to this race, though. Some of those moves, you had to do them, though, if you wanted to lock yourself in or win this race. And as we've seen, Daniel Eberhardt was willing to do anything to take the checker.
And he gets his 6th win of the year, first of this round. He's got a chance to fight for the Full Throttle Cup in 2020. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll talk with your top finishers, where Daniel Eberhardt is your race winner from Texas. You're watching the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by Boosted Playoffs on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Lowe. 4 wide at the stripe. For all he's worth here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
And back live at the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, where RaceSpot TV's coverage of the 2020 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series playoffs is powered by Boosted, the place where gamers and creators go to monetize digitally. Their team will build you a totally free e-commerce store and help get sponsorships for those looking to build their brand online. Boosted is the #1 sponsorship platform for esports influencers. Join their team and visit boosted.com for more information. Well, back live from Fort Worth as the number 90 of Daniel Eberhardt is burning it down, now a 6-time winner in 2020, and he could add the name of Championship 4 contender to that title as well. As we welcome you back into the RaceSpot TV booth, Evan Pasoko alongside with Justin Prince and our producer Hugo Lewis downstairs. Let's talk there right now with the driver of that number 90 machine. It's your race winner tonight from No Limits Texas. Daniel, congratulations on the race win tonight. Wild fashion. You were in the picture all night, but again, it comes down to a thrilling couple of final laps on these intermediate tracks as you get the win. You're 6th to 2020, but something tells me this one's going to be the biggest because, my friend, you will fight for the Full Throttle Cup.
Heck yeah, man. Man, it's crazy to even think I'm locked in. I have no worries going into Martinsville, and I can watch them guys play havoc there. Man, I don't know about y'all, but that racing tonight is like, everybody watching, that is not how none of these guys drive. It is absolutely what you have to do to even run up front, and it is absolutely mayhem and ridiculous. And it is just like, well, he blocked me. You get mad about the block, but you're like, he's got to do it. It's just part of it. And you're sitting there screaming at each other. But it's just like, you got to do it. If you're going to win these races, you have to block.
And this wasn't a case of, you kind of stumbling into a win. That number 9, Bashid, was up front all night long in this one. Of course, obviously going to victory lane, but, also leading some 28 laps. But it seemed like, in a lot of these races, we've got 2 or 3 cars that looked like they had a chance. And that looked like that number was closer to a dozen or so.
Oh, most definitely. I felt like the tires held up good for everybody. I felt like probably the top 7 or 8 in the end would have a shot. But when you're going through the center of the corner, you kind of like got to check up a little bit to get their momentum to go back, or let them bump you, and then it just shoots them backwards a little bit, and you can pull off. That's how I got Benefield up out of the line and had him going backwards. I was trying to shuffle guys to keep who I wanted behind me. Like I had Agnell behind me, and I wanted to have him behind me at the end of this thing because I just felt like I could maneuver with him better, knowing that he's not a playoff driver, and maybe he won't try to, force it a little bit more like Benefield or Andrew or somebody like that.
And of course, now that you know that you will be fighting for the big hardware when we get down to Phoenix, how much of a relief is that for you going to Martinsville after what a mess that race was earlier this year?
Oh, it's a crazy relief. Man, I want to go and win it too. I want to knock a lot of these tracks that I haven't won at off my bucket list. Like Daytona I want to win at, and Martinsville I want to win at, and Bristol I want to win at these tracks. And, I'm tied with Andrew this season for wins, and that's something that's key to me. I want to outdo people that I've been racing with for a long time on here, and I feel like he's the top guy right now. And I know he's been caught up in a couple more accidents than he wanted to this round. He's probably out right now, but I think he's the key guy to beat next week. So you're going to have to focus on that to try to keep him out of the playoffs.
What's the preparation going to look like when we go to Phoenix, knowing, you've known all year that that's going to be the race that you probably have to win at if you're going to be the best of those championship 4. And it's not like you can put a lot of R&D into it in a fixed setup league. It comes down to just making sure that you really know what kind of car you have. You can pace out your race runs, but then also when you actually race it, who knows, right? What's going to happen with yellows and restarts and strategy and whatnot. So does an extra week ahead, like of notice, help you prep for Phoenix at all? Or is it pretty much the same as, if you had gotten in on points after next week?
Oh, most definitely it helps. You have relief going into the next race, and that gives you time to practice. Like, I probably won't touch Martinsville until Martinsville comes around. I'll touch Phoenix, and because Phoenix isn't a good track for me. I'm not successful there. I can't roll the center like everybody else through 1 and 2 because it's almost like a triangle shape filling through 1 and 2, and then you got the dog leg that really doesn't matter down the back. Well, I don't know how it is in the sim. I think it's still the back straightaway.
Yeah.
But but going into 3 and 4, it's kind of a winding corner. You just go, glide around that corner. That corner's okay for me. But 1 and 2 is a real struggle, and that's what scares me. When you see Phoenix being at the end, that is not a track I would like. I would like to keep these 1.5 miles coming, and especially probably you guys after watching this race tonight, you'd like to come back here probably for the final race and make it more exciting for the Final 4.
Well, I can tell you if you're looking for some Phoenix practice, you can come beat me up in the truck race on a Wednesday. But other than that, we'll catch you there for the season finale, Daniel, and we'll also catch you at Martinsville next week. Before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout-out to?
Oh, man, you're going to actually let me do it this week? You've been holding off on that for the last couple of weeks, or last couple times I've won. But
we're just making you earn it.
Yeah, I gotta thank SK Sim Racing, Sean Kalis, for everything he does. Go check him out at sksimracing.com, and everything you guys do with the Race Spot TV, the iRacing Esports channel network. Let's see, who else? Boosted.club. You guys, each and every week, Evan, all the hard work you put into this series, and everybody else behind the scenes. Also got to thank all my teammates that put in the work each and every week. And I got to thank the good Lord above, and my fiance who's watching in the other room, and my grandma who's out of town this week but still watching. I got to thank all them guys.
Well, best of luck at Martinsville, because Daniel, I can tell you I'm going to be very disappointed that I can't watch it next week because they rescheduled our Coca-Cola Series finale for Monday of all days, right? So I won't be able to catch that second to last race for this on Martinsville, but at least for tonight, congratulations on the win. Enjoy kind of watching everybody else stress next Monday, and we'll catch you at Phoenix.
Thank you, buddy.
Race winner tonight in the Boosted Club 125. That is 6-time Full Throttle Cup Series winner in 2020, Daniel Epperhart, and he joins Michael Araya as now the two drivers locked into the championship 4, meaning that Martinsville will be a race of 6 cars fighting for 2 positions. And speaking of that number 2 spot, Justin, I'll pass things down to you for the rest of our top 3, beginning with tonight's runner-up finisher.
Yes, Agnell Phillip, a heck of a run from him tonight. Agnell, first things first, talk us through the fight for the race victory, because this was one of the best battles you've had up front all season.
Yeah, it was all about survival for the last 35 laps or so after we all came down and got our sets of tires. Maybe it was the last 20 laps, I don't remember exactly, but thankfully, Daniel chose the outside on that restart, so I knew as long as I could hold the bottom coming out of 2 that I would have second place at least pretty well locked up, and that's kind of the way it worked out. And I knew kind of when that happened, there was 5 laps to go, I'd get one shot at Daniel, and I took it with about 2 to go, and he did a heck of a job running that defensive line that you have to run at Texas to head that run off, and I could just really never get back up to his bumper, and also, you could try moving him, but he's in the playoffs, he's fighting first spot in the final 4. That's not the way I race, even under normal circumstances, especially not there. That's not something I would have done. So you're kind of in a box just with the way the cars and the setups are. So, did the best I could to try and make my one shot count, and it didn't work out. But yeah, really pumped about the run. Been really wanting to have one race where nothing goes wrong, either on my end or on somebody else's end, and it happened to be this race finally to where I put it all together.
Of course, as well, had a spotter on the stand tonight. About a couple weeks ago, you changed the look of that car with 851 now on that machine. How important and crucial has it been now working with an iRacing team to help your development in the sim as well as prepare you for next season?
Yeah, I got to give a big shout out to my spotter, Brad. It's always helpful to have a spotter in these races. For me, it keeps me more on point mentally. I can be looser and I'm not in my head all the time. Like, I can talk about strategy. I can talk about what I'm trying to do as a way to kind of vent some of the things that come up during a race. So that's super helpful. But just since I've joined 851, it's been incredible to just race with really good guys. I mean, we've got at least 2 or 3 pro level guys on our squad who are trying to make that run in Road to Pro, and being able to practice with them and hear from them and run laps with them is just super helpful. And I've definitely, I joined them about a month ago. I've definitely noticed my racing craft and racing ability going up significantly. So it's been a huge benefit.
That team specialty is short tracks, with a lot of their competitors racing some of the big short track events, the Cars Esport Tour and various other series. Your thoughts on Martinsville, where that's going to definitely come into play to try and compete for a victory at one of the most carnage-filled tracks in all of iRacing?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is going to be my last race for RSR this year. I'll be kind of out of touch with my rig for the next month or so. So I'm kind of bummed I won't be able to do Martinsville, but I know the guys will put on a heck of a show. I think after a week's worth of practice, I probably could be, again, kind of top 5 competing for some of those top 5 positions, and just hoping to avoid the carnage, and that's what everybody's going to be looking to do next week. So
on that note, then, anyone you want to thank for your run throughout the season and in your final race of the campaign?
Just again, thanking my team, A51. They were gracious enough to have me on the team. Want to thank again my spotter, Brad, and my parents who watch this religiously every Monday now. It's kind of cool to be able to compete in something and have them spectate it and talk about the races afterwards. So it's been fun the last couple of weeks doing this, and I'm hoping to make a run at the Winter Series and make a run next year at the championship. I think we'll be in good shape.
Congratulations on the second place finish tonight, Agnell. Good luck in the winter time. Good luck as well. Hopefully we see you in 21.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Agnell Phillip coming home second tonight. Heck of a run for the New York Club Regional driver. But It was Brian Chambliss who came close to victory at Las Vegas a few weeks ago. He came close to victory tonight. He now joins us from P3. In fact, 2 of your top 3 non-playoff drivers. Brian, first things first, talk us through your final run of this race because it was hectic to get there.
Yeah, I definitely was not in contention there on that restart. I was too far back to really make anything happen. I was just trying to save a finish, and there was some guys that had some damage up there, and then stuff started getting squirrely and people getting out of line, and really I was just like, I'm just going to go to the top, and if I pass some folks, I pass some folks. So that's really what happened. I just saw some guys getting squirrely down below, and everyone is super, trying to protect the bottom real hard, so they're all, trying to dive low when the wreck's low. So I just went on the outside and I gained a whole bunch of spots there off of that, people getting into each other, and then, I was just trying to hold it wide open and hoping that, Agnell and Daniel were going to get into it, and that it almost happened there going into 1 there at the white, but it didn't happen. But this doesn't make up for Vegas, but it definitely, I guess, lessens the sting a little bit. It'd have been nice to have this finish and still be in the playoffs, but I'm not going to complain with a P3.
A lot of the drivers before you mentioned that it was a different type of driving style tonight where you needed to be more than cutthroat. You're over excessively aggressive to be able to hold on to track position because you lose the bottom here, you're losing 5 spots. What was it like for you trying to fight throughout this race, knowing there were several drivers who were willing to block all the way to the apron, knowing the importance of that positioning?
Yeah, at that point, I was still trying to protect the bottom, but I knew with it getting down there and the cautions that were coming up, people are going to block even way more aggressively. And a caution was, to me, was bound to happen. At that point, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't involved. I did protect the bottom, but I was nowhere near as aggressive as some of those other folks were, just because like I said, I didn't want to get involved in anything, and everyone is blocking to the bottom and checking up the bottom. So I just where people weren't, and it worked out.
Next race, Martinsville. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, Martinsville hasn't worked out real well for me. And there's been a couple times where I've been in position to get a good finish there, but it hasn't always worked out. Some of it my own doing, some of it just the product of Martinsville and people using their bumpers a little more than others. It's I don't know. We're going to go out there. I got nothing to lose now, so I can be a little bit more aggressive out here with some pit calls, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not in the playoffs, but I feel like I should. So I'm kind of driving with a chip on my shoulder, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna do what I can to make sure that it's known that I deserve to be here one way or the other.
I don't blame you on that, Mark. But anyone you want to thank for your P3 marking on the pylon?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys and Evan and the admins that put this on. They do a great job. We've had a couple hiccups along the way, but it's been dealt with accordingly. Unfortunately, we got guys from Elliott Sadler Esports that think they are a little better than they are, and that's really what I'm going to say about that. But and then I'd like to thank my family for letting me do this on Mondays. And you probably hear me in the background getting a little wild, but thank them. And then, my all my friends over at Outsider Racing League. Other than that, that's all I got. Appreciate it.
But you get back to your family. Congratulations on the 3rd place finish.
Thank you.
Brian Chambliss from 17th to 3rd tonight. And Evan, you could hear some of the emotions from some of these non-playoff drivers knowing they had a shot for this race. They had a lot to show what they can do. They had a lot to prove and had a lot of help in some cases to improve throughout the season. But now it's time for the playoff drivers to have to hope to survive, because after this race tonight, it's pure chaos for who can make it in the Final Four for this year. Pure chaos.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about some of the other races, right, earlier in these playoffs, the Bristols, the Richmonds, the Rollvals, as kind of races that you didn't want to leave anything up to chance, right? You didn't want to have to bank on a good finish in those races to get into the next round. None of that, I think, comes anywhere close to Martinsville with the unexpectedness and the chaos, and of course it being the round of 8 finale. Let's look at the point standings coming out of this race. So we mentioned Michael Araya, race win last week. He's already been in, and now Daniel Eberhardt will join him in the next round of the championship as well. So Kyle Trudell, if we're using Benefiel, first driver out as the marker, Trudell is 9 points above that cut line. For Dylan Jones, he is 4 points above the cut. And then we go to the drivers on the outside looking in. Adam Benefiel, -4. Grant Davis, -8. Andrew Farinaj, 10 points out. Justin, not in a must-win, but awfully close to it. And David Washington, 11 points back. So none of those cars in the red, none of those drivers above, being Trudell and Jones, in on points now but not locked in on wins, are safe or totally out of it. It's a Martinsville race. You get in one wreck, that swings the points 10, 15 points either direction. So if I'm Farinaj, maybe I'm feeling a little bit better about how, maybe I thought it was going to be, but if I'm the 88, I'm thinking I'm the best guy in the series. Two-time defending champion. I think it's crazy that I'm 10 points below. And a good car doesn't matter because he's had a good car the last 2 weeks, right? I mean, he needs to translate that into luck and into finishing this thing out. In Martinsville, that's an awfully tall task.
Especially since you never know if there's going to be an incident. You never know if there's going to be a massive track clogging pileup coming off turn 2, especially. I don't know if there's a best place to even stay safe at Martinsville if you are trying to fight for points here to lock yourself in, because it's absolutely chaotic and absolutely crucial to make sure you have a good run and save tires there, as well as make sure that you don't necessarily wreck the entire field while trying to give someone a bump if that comes into play. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of cars without significant damage by the checker flag based on what happened in the springtime. You have to think that the aggression, if anything, now that there's much more, if anything, a ton more on the line, is going to be even higher. I'd be scared if I'm below that cut line. I'd be scared of even above that cut line. If I'm the driver's locked in, I'm just thinking, thank goodness that I won a race.
And that race produced, by the way, the earlier races here at Martinsville, a first-time winner in Daniel Scott as he held off Bradley Burke. So those two drivers certainly took advantage of it. So we could easily see a non-playoff driver go for the race win. But I just wanted to look at those statistics and kind of read them out for you. So that race went to overtime. It took 202 laps to get completed. 5 different race leaders, 5 lead changes, right? So if you went to the race lead, dropped back, you didn't get it back. It was a revolving door at the front of the field. Here's the big one, though. 20 cautions for 103 laps of pacing, which is an RSR all-time high. Do I think we replicate that? Unlikely, because I think that those playoff drivers will be a little bit more disciplined. They don't want to get an EOL penalty. They don't want to get shoved to the back, and they're going to pray that those non-playoff cars cut them some more slack. It's different than Texas, right? I mean, they said at Texas, you heard it from the drivers in those post-race interviews where they said, listen, I mean, you don't want to have to block. You don't want to have to kind of drive like a jerk, but that's just the way you do it. And in Martinsville, if you want to drive like a jerk, you can, right? I mean, that is a physical racetrack. You can push your way through. I think it's going to come down to mentality. If we get some early yellows, all bets are off. If we start to spread things out, though, I think some of that strategy comes into play. And, of course, by the time we get to that second half, if those bottom 4 guys aren't in a good spot, desperation starts to set in. And who knows, what kind of drastic measures they take to try to get that resolved. It is your last chance if you want to fight for the Full Throttle Cup this year.
Like I said, extremely nervous about how this song is going to play out. I wouldn't be surprised if someone uses a bump and run in that case if they know they have to win the race. Some drivers, yes, may not like to do that, but there's a ton on the line here, Evan, of course. One massive mistake, one mistimed move, one over-aggressive move, one bad bump during the middle of the race where you get paid back can completely change your complexion for the championship. In other words, again, with it being Martinsville, yes, I I'm not surprised you feel that can happen where there could be less trouble. At the same time, though, it's Martinsville. There's a reason it is known as the half mile of mayhem in some places.
Yeah, imagine this world that we're living in where we say that maybe Martinsville could be a little bit more controlled than Texas, right? I mean, who knows? There is so much on the line. It is going to be a thrilling penultimate race of the 2020 season, and we really hope that everybody tunes in with us next Monday night for that one. But until then, that's it for us here tonight from Texas, as round number 28 has fallen into our rear view mirror. So on behalf of our entire team at RealSimRacing, and for the folks at RaceBot TV, for our producer Hugo Luis, for Justin Prince, and to myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and congratulations to Daniel Eberhardt for locking in to the Championship 4. We're back here next Monday night. It is Monday, November the 2nd. It's a 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time start right here, RaceBot TV and the iRacing Sports Network. You're not going to want to miss it. Until next time, that race and every race of the 2020 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series powered by Boosted is exclusively on RaceBot TV. We will catch you next Monday for the Round of 8 finale from Martinsville.